Hi, I'm here with Wolf Garden, an Austin-based artist, and thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Sandra. Very happy to be here.
Thank you. So, yes, my first question for you is Wolf Garden is your artist name, how you sign your work, and um, I was wondering what the origin of that name was, how you came up with it.
Yeah, it's a name I made up. The wolf is my spirit animal, and most of my work comes from self inner exploration. I would say it comes from from all the world that we cannot see, to put it in a way. So since the wolf was my spirit animal, and it appeared in a garden when I visualized it and I got in touch with it, it became a way for me to remind myself of always doing art from spirit, from a greater place, and not so much from my ego, or not just to be seen,
Mm-hmm.
but just to do it from this greater being, I guess. So that's where Wolf Garden originated. It's kind of confusing for some people, Some people don't know if to call me Fran, my original name, Wolf. They ask me, but it definitely helps me remind to do art that way.
Yeah, no, I think that actually makes very good sense. I guess it's something that's more common for entertainment artists, I think, than visual artists. And maybe people initially think it's more odd when as visual artists might have like a different, not persona necessarily, but a different name.
Very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so about your journey as an artist, I was also wondering when you initially started doing art and what your artistic education has been like, whether that's been within school and art school or outside of school.
Yeah, good question. In my case, art was more something that chose me. I've been, drawing and painting since I was very young. My mother told me that since I was like 2 or 3 years old, even before I recall. So it always was for me, just a natural thing, something I had to do. So I spent a lot of my life just painting and kind of getting better at that skill without really knowing it. And then, um, so I was kind of self-educated, I would say, definitely. Out of fun, which I think it's probably the best way to learn, because you don't have to use as much willpower. You just naturally do it. And then I started to take it more seriously after a breakup I had a couple of years ago, where I found myself, I was in a lot of pain, and I found myself just naturally wanting to bring that aspect, do it more on a daily basis. I just naturally found myself painting again, or painting with more passion. I don't know, just doing it more, and that's when I realized that it was my purpose. So, but yeah, I was definitely self-educated and out of fun. I mean, it chose me.
You're someone for whom art is like really a passion, something you're driven to do. Like you say, it chose you, which is great because I think that's not necessarily the case for all creatives that I've met, at least. But you also are a working artist, professional artist. So how do you balance the calling and the passion of it with also monetizing your talent?
Yeah, it's a good point. Um, so what I've found in my experience is that the more I do art that I uh, enjoy, and the more I do it with love and not looking necessarily to sell, although I think there has to be a certain balance in terms of quality, but the more I do it for something that I truly want to express, the more I sell as a byproduct. And when I've tried, I think with one painting where I was like, I'll just do this to sell it fast, and it didn't sell. I think I still have that one. So, so yeah, for me, it's a matter of finding your style through something that you truly want to say, and then getting better and better. Uh, improving the quality in my experience. I'm a true believer. I read a quote once that I really liked. I don't know from which actor it was, but it said something that, like, forget about the marketing, forget about all that, just focus on the quality and make your art so irresistible that people come to you, So that's how I try to focus my art.
Yeah, that's very good advice. A good quote. Yeah. What are some artists who you admire or look up to?
Yeah, there's a French or Canadian artist I really like, which is called Martin Beaupre. He has this Zen vibe, which I really like. And out of Austin, I have lots of friends here. One of my favorite artists was Adrian, um, who I took classes with. I forgot her last name. What is it? Oh, she's Adrian Hodge, I think it is. Who I actually took classes with to get better with ink. She was one of my favorite artists, and then I have lots of. I try to take details uh, from each different artist. I think more than just admiring the entirety of the pieces. So I try to learn as much as I can, but those two are good references, I would say. And I really like Zen art too. I've always been very inspired by minimalism, by not adding more, but taking out, which I think it's a good path to take. Sometimes less and with more quality says a lot more than just adding more stuff to try to say something. So I really like Zen art.
Zen art, yes. Yeah, I did notice some Zen elements in your work.
Yeah.
You're zoomed at minimalistic, yet still very present and beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah. I also used to teach meditation. So it has always been part of me, and I think that naturally expresses itself in the art too, in the meanings behind and just the simplicity of this like Eastern traditions. So yeah, I think that's in the paintings too.
Yes. Actually, my next question was going to be about your painting, but now that you've brought up that you teach meditation, I actually had a question about that. Because I read that you were a meditation teacher on your, I believe it was on the East website. Um, so how did you first discover meditation in Eastern tradition? And also, I'm also curious about how you teach meditation. It seems like a hard thing to teach people.
It is. It's so intangible that it's hard sometimes. But well, I discovered it when I was a teenager. I started meditating. I've been meditating since I was a teenager. I think I read some benefit somewhere, probably in some book. Maybe it was more peace, maybe it was more confidence, maybe it was more, I don't know what it was. But it influenced me to start to try it. And I remember just sitting in my room as a teenager trying to do whatever these guys were telling me about letting go of everything. And I didn't know if I was gonna get relaxed or just float into space. I didn't know what to expect, but after a while I started to discover how important it is to. I truly think that your inner world, your external world is a reflection of your inner world. So, if you fine tune or if you manage or if you become aware or conscious of your inner world, the rest kind of falls into place. So I've started seeing so many different benefits out of it, from social to art to just feeling better overall, even in business, that after a while I realized that I wanted to teach it. So I taught it for a couple of years. I had a company where I taught online to people all over the world. I try to find the simplest ways to teach it, because like you said, it's pretty hard, especially mindfulness and all those. So I found that teaching mantra meditation was one of the easiest ways to teach to beginners, because it gives them something to focus on. For those who don't know what mantra meditation is, it's basically repeating a certain um, word or vibration in your head. So at least you have something to follow, which is probably the hardest thing of meditation. You know, just letting go of everything is just so broad that that yeah. So that was my journey. But then after a while, I realized that it was either teaching meditation or focusing fully on art, and I realized that meditation was like 90% me, and then art was everything. It was just my natural state, so I decided to go for art.
But you continue your personal practice of meditation.
Of course, yes, yes.
Do you consider art a meditative practice?
I think it can definitely be. Um, Many artists like myself, and we talk about this a lot, we totally forget ourselves when we are painting. You know, we get into that state of selflessness, I guess is the word, that world beyond words. So yeah, definitely, I think painting can be uh, exercising, can be. There are so many different ways of meditating, you know, of reminding ourselves that we are bigger than our thoughts, which we believe are so true, are so ourselves. We identify so much with thoughts, but the truth is that if you, it's pretty easy to realize that they are just on repeat, and we basically repeat the same thoughts all the time, and we suddenly become these patterns that we truly think it's ourselves, and it's just a repeated machine. So getting us outside of that makes us, I think, a lot more intelligent and may live a better life.
Yes, I'm glad you brought the thing about thoughts. That's something I've been learning recently. Is we do think sometimes like, well, it's my thought, so it's true, but that's not necessarily the case. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. With meditation, you kind of sit back and you realize, wow, this machine is just ongoing. It never stops. I'm not this, you know.
So back to your artwork, and particularly the one this piece you've created for La Peña's
Mhm.
exhibition on the pandemic. Could you talk a little bit about your piece you've created? I believe it's called The Storm.
Yeah, it's called a storm. So it's influenced naturally by the storm that we're all living right now, and also by a recent camping trip I did to excuse me, to New Mexico and Colorado. So it has a storm, and then it has the Colorado mountains or the Rocky Mountains, and there are more desert-like area of the painting on the lower end. So yeah, so it was a way for me to kind of escape the situation and renew my energy. So I decided to go camping, and it was. I think the main thing I want to say with this painting is that um, it's important, I think, to feel all the emotions that we're all going through, because it's really touching us all, instead of running away from them or trying to cancel them or suppress them, you know. Sometimes by feeling the entire spectrum of emotions, we become more we kind of gain power over them. We, you know, by giving love and compassion to those emotions, we become free, or way more free than if we just reject them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a combination of all those factors. You know, my trip to Colorado, my trip to New Mexico, to the desert. I think the idea came in, well, camping in a desert in New Mexico, and then naturally the storm that we're all under right now.
Yes. Yeah, there's so many pretty awful things happening at once, unfortunately, that kind of prompt pretty similar. Each event prompts a similar emotion. And you know, what do you think are some particular emotions that people try to suppress rather than deal with?
Good question.
Yeah.
I think it really depends on each person. But probably the main pattern is that we suddenly have to face ourselves and all this internal chaos because it forces us to do that because we have way less escapisms or a way of just forgetting about this inner world. So I think it really depends on each person. It can be, I don't know, sadness, anxiety, whatever form it takes. Um, in general, just powerlessness. But yeah, just getting in touch and being compassionate with oneself about it and treating it as a crying baby instead of just trying to feel good all the time, paradoxically creates more freedom, better emotions, you know? I
Mhm.
think that's the path.
Yes. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Mhm.
Um, well, the subject of your many of your paintings, and we'll include this one along with our interview, is I mean, large night skies and mountains and beautiful scenes of nature, predominantly the skies and mountains, much like Colorado, New Mexico. But I also noticed that in almost every one you have this little indistinct gold figure that you're, I kind of rest my eye on after a couple of seconds. Now, why do you include that little figure, and what does it mean?
Yeah, I've been painting that little figure since I was very young, since I was a teenager. I used to draw it in school. Um, I guess some things in art are better left unsaid, or maybe we do art because we don't know how to express it in words. But if I had to write it down, I think it would be something like our higher selves. You know, this person without with an empty face and an empty body. It's just our deeper self. You know, and I think what I've experienced is that people when they see my paintings in exhibits. They tend to kind of project themselves
Mhm.
in that space, in that little person, and also discover with that what, or at least I tend to see what they have inside. Because some people ask me, "Is he lonely? He's just out there for that?" And others see it as a very wow, this is so peaceful. I love it in the middle of the mountains, you know. Because so I think we kind of project ourselves into that, but in general, I would say it's just a yeah our higher self, just this realization that life is so much more uh so it's so beautiful, you know. I truly think it's a beautiful thing, and that's I guess what I try to say, you know, kind of shift our perspective and see the world as magical as it truly is, I think.
Mhm. Yes, I think it provides a bit of context for the magic. It gives this little, with this little detail, you give the scale of your work as well, and it gives, I don't know, I guess all humans, we're all very anthropocentric. So I immediately, I found myself, I was like, there's, there is one little human in all of these mountains.
Yeah,
um,
yeah, definitely. And it also doesn't have the head and the body are not connected, and the body's not connected necessarily to the floor. So with all those tiny details, I think art in general is just a detail. It's everything in the details. I kind of communicate. Honestly, it started unconsciously, but that higher thing that we are, and we just don't realize it all the time.
so one thing I've been curious about with all artists is those who are creating right now, who are currently creating, or do you feel that what you're currently creating is because of the current situation, or if it's almost in spite of it?
It's a good point. Um, I think it really depends on each artist. On my case, it's I don't force it; it just comes naturally to me. It's in spite of it. I just have to keep on going. It has always been something kind of bigger than me, to be honest. I just paint because I have to, and um, but yeah, to me, honestly, it's just something I just keep on going. uh, there is some influence naturally, like with the storm,
Mhm.
but at the same time, I genuinely believe that, like I said before, the external world, it ends up being, it's always changing, so I think the focus should be inside regardless of the external situation, which is we all have experience as human. It just changes all the time. So we have ups and downs. But so I think my work naturally just focuses on the internal. So there is some influence like with the storm, but overall I just keep on going. But again, it truly, I've talked to many other artist friends, and we're all influenced in different ways, I think. And
Mhm.
we all miss going out to exhibits. I truly miss that.
Yes, I do too. I think we all do. And speaking of, because the external world never really escapes us. Although focusing on the internal is very important. And speaking of the physical world that we miss and the art world, I don't know. I was wondering if you have any advice for artists who are entering the Austin art scene, particularly Latino artists. La Peña is a Latino arts organization, and Cynthia supported Latino artists for a very long time. And I was just wondering if you could speak to any of the potential challenges they might face, or
Yeah.
how they might overcome them, especially in this time. Would it be quite difficult to be a burgeoning artist?
Yeah. My advice is to follow what you truly want to say. Sometimes our most pure gold is in our weirdness, and what makes you truly different. So I think we all try to copy other people in every aspect of our lives, but the best art sometimes is, that child that you have inside. So just allowing it to run free and find your style through that, just allowing it to happen, but being consistent. That's the advice that I would give people. Just stay, believe in what's, you know deep inside you, and just allow it to come out. Maybe feeling fear sometimes, feeling weird at times. It doesn't matter. It's just, I truly think that's a way. That's a path.
Yeah, I think that's very good advice.
Thank you.
Right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk
Thank
with
you.
me this evening. I've enjoyed learning about your work and about your practice, um, and I look forward to perhaps meeting in the physical world one
Yeah,
day,
hopefully,
perhaps in
definitely.
the gallery.
Yeah, we all are missing that, I think. And
Yeah.
actually, I think I really have hope that uh, that we all start enjoying social relationships, even with people who we don't know, a lot more after this. That's one of the
Yes, and
hope.
I think we will. I think we will. I've already started to notice when I'm at the grocery store, people like want to be more friendly because they so miss getting the opportunity to be friendly.
Yeah, I've noticed that same thing too. We'll smile and suddenly realize that, yeah, it's actually cool to talk to your neighbor every now and then, instead of just being in ourselves all the time, like my work says. So
Exactly.
thank you so much, Sandra. I truly enjoyed it.
Oh,
Great talking to you.
all right. I will let you get on to your evening. All right. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.